you're starting up, there's so many new things that you come across. You always have imposter syndrome. Now that AI is there, there's so many different use cases that you could be thinking of. Pretty much every company who's serving any kind of customer will have some kind of use case with AI wherein they could improve or provide a better experience to their customers in terms of automating more of the things itself or doing much more than what they're already doing right now as well. One of the ways of finding out an AI idea that can disrupt the current market is look at the tools that are already doing great, without any AI. So be it like Salesforce or the current old school tools that so many companies use, and now try and envision a similar kind of tool with AI. Let's say if you were to start off with AI itself, what would the ideal experience be?
Thanks so much for doing this. I'm really excited to learn more about you and your journey.
No, thanks. Thank you so much for having me, and it looks super fun and exciting.
To begin with, I'd love to learn a little bit more about how did you guys get started with Clueso? How did you get the idea? Tell us a bit about the origin story.
Yeah, awesome, for sure. So actually, we did not get started with Clueso. We were actually doing something else before. So me and my co-founders, we met at IIT Madras, and in the end of third year of college, we started working together. That was, I would say, end of 2021. And that's when we started working together. We started working on this product called Desklam. It was a note-taking and digital reading tool for students and researchers. And it was COVID, and everyone was reading online. And that's when we thought, you need to improve the experience of, reading experience. And that's when we started working on that. We were very, very focused on product building and not really acquiring, customers or revenue. And then after a while, we started focusing on customers, started acquiring, as many users as we could from different universities in India, abroad as well. And we ended up getting 25 to 25,000 users in 1 year. We had so many signups, people signing up, and it was all organic word of mouth. But one major problem was monetization. Students and researchers, they don't like paying for software, and at least for the one that we were building. And when we spoke to them, we realized, it's as a business, it probably wouldn't make sense. And that's the idea we got into Y Combinator with as well. So we were part of YCW23. So we interviewed with them in November 2022. And in the interview, even the partners at YC, they were like, we love, what you guys have built, but as a market, it's not a good market to target. And you'll never end up becoming big in this market. And of course, at that point, we felt we would do things very, very differently from what others had done before. And that's why we would succeed in this market. But then two months later on, by Jan, and when the YC batch started, we also ended up realizing that the market wouldn't work. We explored the US market as well. And that's when we decided we'll, pivot and try and do something else. And we were exploring multiple different ideas for 4 to 6 weeks, talking to a lot of companies in our batch itself, like YC batch and other companies in SF. And that's when we landed on Clueso. And then the reason why we started working on Clueso was one of the biggest problems that we faced at the previous startup was customer education. So and when we spoke to all of our customers, the customers or users who were using it actively and also the ones who churned, and from the exact same cohort, let's say, from a top law school in India in the same year. And when we spoke to 10 people, 3 of them who were using very, very actively 6 to 7 hours a day. And then there were a lot of other ones who sort of, just came and used it for 10 weeks, 10 minutes and never came back. And when we spoke to them, what we realized was a lot of these users who were churning or the ones who were not using it very actively, the main reason was they could not figure out how to use the product, or, they did not know some of the marquee features that we had related to note making and other things. And that's when we realized, educating your customers on how your product works, what it can do for them is really, really important. And that's when we thought we'll start solving the problem of product education and, help more of your customers use more of your product, more features, and get more value, and get them to aha moment as soon as possible. And that's when we started thinking about this space. And now, since then, we've done a couple of small pivots in between, but since then, we've started working on this idea of product education. And now at Clueso, we are building an AI-powered platform to help companies create videos and documentation. So that one way that companies use today, like SaaS companies, to educate their customers on how to use their product is mainly documentation. They have a help center or knowledge base, and they've got a lot of videos as well. But creating this content is very, very manual process right now, and that's what we are automating with AI right now.
So you were talking about help documentation for product education. So in the startups that I've been a part of or that I've co-founded as well, so I'm very, very familiar with this problem as well, that product education is always a problem. And internally for the team that is building the startup, you always have these competing priorities that do you build the product or do you focus on building out the help documentation, educating your customers, making the product more self-serve and so on. Tell us more about product documentation or product education. Uh, what do you think an early stage B2B SaaS should do to educate their customers about the product?
For sure. No, this is a great point. As you mentioned, there are always competing priorities, and then help documentation or actually customer education never becomes a top priority unless you start seeing like a huge churn because of that. And but that's something that's super, super important for you to give really good customer experience to your customers. And of course, if they have great experience, there'll be a lot of good word of mouth and much better retention as well. And that's why we feel it's super important, and companies should start it from like scratch itself, like right away whenever they get started. But again, the reason why companies don't do right now, it's also because of how manual the process is and how much involvement it requires from multiple different team members. So let's say if you were to create a good video for your demo video for your product or how to videos for your product, you currently need a designer to design the templates and do the final video editing. But then you product manager is the one who's owning the feature, so they know how the feature works. And there's a lot of back and forth between multiple different team members, and making sure that all of them get some time away for creating this help documentation, getting all of them on the same page. It's super, super difficult. And also because how manual this process is, people don't see and even because the ROI is not very straightforward. It's not something that companies prioritize early on. But that's what we're trying to solve, which is now that you don't have time, but you can still create great documentation and still offer great customer experience just because of how quick it is, and you don't even need to worry about it. So the way our product works is you do a raw screen recording of your product and talking about any feature you want, and from that it automatically creates a professional video and step-by-step documentation. So just think of it like how you'd explain some feature to your team member or your customer over a call. You just do a quick and raw recording like that, and then you get the professional output you need. And that's how simple it is. And because of that, now our customers have been able to create a lot more videos and articles, and they're seeing great impact as well. So prioritizing is super important early on, just to offer great customer experience.
So product education, that is one use case. Are there any other use cases as well for which customers can use Clueso?
Absolutely. So product marketing is one of the other big ones, which is, now you've launched a product, you're educating your customers on how to use your product great. But then, as a tech company, you keep launching new features very, very regularly. And when you're launching something new, you want to educate your existing customers about the new feature and upsell them on this new feature or improve the adoption for this. And also pull in more prospects because of, what you've built, with the new feature that you've built. And to communicate about this new feature, you still need to create good product videos like, blogs and, GIFs, and send out newsletters and things like that. So Clueso is really helpful for that use case as well, wherein, we've seen a lot of early stage companies and even, bigger companies wherein they create videos for the new features they release or monthly update videos and then share those with their customers. So that's another big use case. One more use case that we've seen, which is very big as well, is internal team training. So this is something that becomes relevant when you've got more than 200 employees typically, wherein now that there's so many team members, and to onboard any new team members, you need to still educate them on how to use your product. So there's internal team training on the product itself. There are other internal tools and processes that you have. So like creating SOPs and sort of documentation for those other tools. So internal team training is also a big use case, which is L&D teams typically handle this. And then we've got another use case, which is sales enablement. So how do you make your sales team more efficient? How do you get them to do their work more efficiently? So it could be something like, training them on how to use the CRM you use in the most effective way, because CRMs are typically very custom for different companies. And then let's say Salesforce's documentation side will not really help you, because the way it looks at the way you've sort of managed your CRM is very different from how the normal one would look. And that's why there's a lot of custom playbooks, workflows on top of it, for which companies create documentation. And beyond this, you also want to create use case specific videos. So let's say when you're talking to prospects, and you probably serve 4 or 5 different industries. But when you're talking to them, you want to show something that's most relevant to them, and then that's where you can create use case specific videos for their use case to communicate the value. So these are some use cases.
Tell us about the ideal customer profile of Clueso. Who will go and find that, okay, this is something I need?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something that we have been doing a lot of work on regularly, and it's trying to narrow it even more and more. But as of now, what we have found out is it's Series A plus, B2B SaaS companies majorly, and specifically, the ideal market would be the US market, because that's where most of the SaaS companies are as well, super fast growing SaaS companies. So I'd say that's the ICP. But we're seeing a lot of good pull from a lot of different kind of teams as well, like very operational companies, or fintech insurance companies as well, where there's a lot of internal team training and all of that. But because of our network majorly, and because of we ourselves are in the SaaS space, we understand the market well, we ourselves are the users, and face the problems regularly. We're starting with B2B SaaS market, that to typically Series A plus companies. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the early customer journeys that you've seen at Clueso. So for the audience, maybe, so my company, which is Zen Admin, which is we are building HR and IT automation platform. We were one of the early customers of Clueso as well. And I can maybe share our experience a little bit as well, which is, so we, at the point where we adopted Clueso, we were about a year and a half into building our product from the beginning as a seed stage startup. And again, there was no bandwidth for putting out help documentation, videos, and so on. But our product was really, really complex, and it was becoming more and more complex as time goes on. And so we felt that not only our customers, but our internal non-technical team members were also struggling with understanding the product. And so that's when we actually bumped into Clueso somewhere. I think we found it on Product Hunt or LinkedIn or something like that. And we decided to give it a try. And so over the past few months, we have been creating these videos that are kind of refined by Clueso. And also it comes with these step-by-step help documentation. And we have been able to publish that and really seen an ROI in terms of a greater understanding of the product, both from our customers and from our internal team members as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about some of the early customer stories that you have seen?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to hear your story as well. And we've loved working with you and your team. And so to give you one of the examples, so that we onboarded Aspire. Aspire was our 10th customer. They're a Singapore-based fintech company, a very, very big company, growing super fast. One of the fastest fintech growing companies ever. And so we onboarded them in, I think, 3 months into our journey. And then we started working with them, and the use cases kind of expanded within their team. So we only started initially onboarded them because they wanted to create videos and documentation for their customer facing help center. And that's how they started. But then what we saw was they started using it for so many different use cases, and use cases just kept expanding. So they started creating, because it's a fintech company, there's a lot of slideshows of financial terms that you want to educate your team members on as well. So they start creating videos to educate their internal teams on different terms, or like their support team on, let's say, if a support request comes in, how do you answer this, and things like that. So there's so many other operational and internal team training education, team training use cases also that came up when we worked with them. And we recently did a case study with them as well. And one thing that we saw and that we sort of found out also was that they saved close to 80% of the time in creating this content. So there's one team focused on creating this content, but they're not able to create enough content because of how much time it takes. But now they're able to create all the content, actually double the content that they were creating before. And now they're also able to do all the other parts of their job in a much, much better way, because now they've freed up so much time. So Aspire was a great case study. And then apart from that, recently we worked with another company as well. We haven't done a case study with them yet publicly, so can't really reveal the name. But they were launching version 2 of their product. And within a month, they wanted to create more than 100 videos and 100 articles, which would have been impossible if you were to do it manually or any other way. But with Clueso, they were able to create over 100 videos and help article as well for the new product launch that they did. And their customers are already getting great value from the new launch that they did, because there's great documentation as well. So, and over time, we started onboarding much bigger and bigger companies. So there, the ROI is even more clear. We've got a couple of US public companies as well, wherein they've got product academies. So the moment a company gets bigger, Series C and above in the US, they typically create certification courses or product academy for their product, and then they create a lot of videos and articles. And the quality needs to be super high. They cover the concepts and how it works as well. And that's where teams are using Clueso as well, and they've been able to do the same videos that they were doing before, but now 10 times faster.
Um, do you see yourself as an AI company or as a product education or product marketing company or something else?
Oh, absolutely. We are definitely an AI company. So a product is the reason why we've been able to do what we are doing is because of how much AI, how much growth there has been in the AI models that we use and everything related to, right. So in our product, we do use multiple different kinds of AI features. We've got speech to text to transcribe your audio to text, and then we've got a lot of AI rewriting features for which we use GPT-4 APIs, and then we've got text to speech as well to generate great voices for your videos. So we definitely are at the forefront, and we're using all of the top technologies that we can be using to sort of make this process much faster. So the way I would put it is, we are AI enabled or AI powered in a product education company.
So I think you guys have had definitely a very good start. How do you see this evolving, and what do you think is the 10-year vision for Clueso?
That's a great point. So last few months have been great, and as of now, we've just been focused on training videos or videos focused on educating your customers on how to use your product. But we see this expanding a lot into a lot of other domains as well. And basically, we want to cater to any kind of videos, any kind of instructional videos or educational videos as well, and not just screen recorded videos for SaaS product videos. 10-year vision could be something like this. We would be catering to any kind of videos. So right now, we started off with a video creation tool or documentation creation tool for SaaS companies, which makes it super easy for them. But maybe in future, we would want to kill something like Photoshop as well, or any other huge video creation tools as well. That's something that we are still trying to find out, as we go in the journey. We are very early on in the journey. So yeah, that's something for us to figure out. But we definitely see this growing as, a very big and a tool or a product that can help with creating videos or any kind of educational content of for multiple different use cases.
Got it. Tell us a little bit more about your co-founders. How did you guys meet? How did you guys start working together?
Oh, absolutely. Love my co-founder. So we all were in the same batch in IIT Madras. We all met in IIT Madras. That's where we all did our bachelor's. And yeah, so Akash and I, one of my co-founders are Akash and Prajwal. So Akash and I, we were roommates in a hostel room in our first year of college. And then Prajwal and Akash were great friends since the first year as well. And that's how all three of us met. And actually, we knew each other for a while, but we started working on together, Clueso or Desklam together a while later, because we were all doing different things in college. We were leading different teams. Akash was he headed or created the product design club at IIT Madras. Prajwal is focused on is doing great at competitive programming. Winning a lot of hackathons as well. And then I was actually doing very deep tech, hard tech stuff. So I was at a team called Avishkar Hyperloop. So it is we were a competition team when we were participating in international competitions, where we created Hyperloop prototype. Hyperloop is like a fifth mode of transportation proposed by Elon Musk. So we participated in P6 Hyperloop pod competition, met Elon Musk there in 2019. And I was leading that team as well. We won a couple of international competitions. So I was doing a lot of hard tech stuff, hard and deep tech stuff as well. And we all were good friends. So when we were just having a chat, Prajwal and Akash, they actually started working on something together. And then I was still at Avishkar Hyperloop doing a lot of deep tech stuff. And then, I spoke to them and we realized, all three of us wanted to build something of our own and sort of, not start with a job, to start with just, something that we could build of our own, because all three of us had started something of our own in college and, worked with bigger teams and, realized that, we want to do something of our own as well, wherein, there's a lot of things, we've got a lot of flexibility to figure out, what you need to do. And that's when we, started together. So we all met in IIT Madras and been very close friends since then. In fact, we all live together now as well in the same apartment.
Got it. So all three of you have had the entrepreneurial bug since the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say since the third year of college. Yeah.
The journey of starting a startup, it takes you very, very deep into several domains.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you must have gone deeper than I would guess most people have gone in the areas of product education, product marketing, converting videos into text, the AI revolution, and so on. What are some of the highlights of what you would say is what are some things that you know now that you didn't when you were starting the journey?
Oh, absolutely. So when we actually started the journey, we are also doing something like in-app tours and not even videos and documentation. We started off with in-app product walkthroughs, and then after a while, after working for 2 months in that particular space, we realized we didn't really have any specific insight where we could win on. There are a lot of companies that were already doing great in this market, digital adoption platforms. So we did not really have any unique insight which could make us win this market. And that's when we had the customers that we were working with or the new prospects that we were talking to, we saw that all of them wanted to create more videos. And as you know, like more than 80% of SaaS users prefer going through videos than documentation as well, or prefer going through videos to learn something new. And now because of TikToks and reels and whatnot, everyone just prefers like a very visually heavy content. And that's when we realized, videos is a very growing segment. And that's when we started off working on videos. We, in fact, started off without any AI features, just like in a normal screen recording, but, zoom in, zoom off, zoom out effects and things like that. But when we saw and when we spoke to companies, we realized, actually recording to start with, like, recording audio itself is such a challenging task, getting the audio right, because, you need to write out the script. So many people are insecure about their voice. And to get an actual audio out as well, you'll need a professional mic like this, which is not something everyone can have, or it takes a huge amount of effort to actually get the video out. And that's when you're like, audio is one of the problems that, people spend a lot of time on or that they're not able to figure out. And that's when we're like, okay, now that AI voiceovers are getting better and better, they've gotten so natural, even since the time we started working on this since June 2023. They're just getting so much better. And that's when we incorporated, AI voiceovers as well on the product. And then we realized, folks are like, okay, now that we have this, but we still, don't want to write out the professional script. So that's when we like, now we started using GPT-4 to sort of, help them write better scripts for their videos as well by just analyzing what was happening on the screen or what they were saying in the original audio. So we've started incorporating all of these features, but it has been more of a customer pull for us than, something that we started off initially itself with that, we'll do this. So we started off with creating a better, a tool that helps, folks create better videos and documentation for their product, and didn't really think about, different use cases where we would be using AI. But then now when we started working with our customers, we realized, those were the challenges. And, AI right now, the way it is right now, it can solve all of those challenges really well. And that's when we started incorporating each of these aspects into a product.
I'd love to learn a little bit more about your journey before Clueso. In fact, would it be possible for you to share, like, what was your childhood like? Did you have any formative experiences that helped shape your world?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. So I actually grew up in this town called Guntakal. So that's in a small town in Andhra Pradesh. I'm originally a Marwari Jain, originally from Rajasthan, but brought up in Andhra Pradesh because of my dad's business there. So my dad and everyone in my family always had a textiles business. No one was ever in tech. None of them, as in fact, the second engineer from my family, when the first engineer was one of my cousins. And so no one was ever in tech. And, up to 10th grade, I was there in the town. There's nothing much there. We just used to go to school, come back, play cricket. So, but back then, when I was in my 6th grade, I started going to my dad's office, and we call it Dukan. And, started liking it there, started seeing when customers used to come, pay you money upfront for what they were buying. And that was super exciting. And then for 2 years, 3 years, I got very much interested into that and pulled into that. And that's when I was like, this is great. I want to be building something of my own, start something of my own, wherein, I get to do all of these things and learn a lot of things as well. And that's when I was like, uh, as a Marwari, you always have that, business background, and you want to do something of your own. You're very money minded as well, typically. So that's where it started. That's where I'd say, I was like, oh, I want to do something of my own. But then one more thing I realized was also that, my dad has already grown this business really well. And then there's not much that I can be doing to, build something of my own here. And I was always good at ACADS and, math and physics. So I was like, let me continue this. And then I wrote JEE in 12th, and then, got into IIT Madras. And there I was very unclear about what I wanted to do. So I was, exploring a lot of different things, a lot of different sort of, e-cell Sarang's cultural clubs and a lot of other different clubs as well. And one thing I started working on initially was Avishkar Hyperloop, as I mentioned. So I joined this team, a great team, learned a lot of things there, worked on a lot of different things. And after a year, I started leading the team as well. And that's when I was leading a 70 people team. And that's when I realized, I had so many things on my sort of, task board, and so many things that I had to do every day, and so many things that I loved working on as well. And when my tenure ended, and when I passed on the leadership to someone else, the team, every year we do that. And after that, I thought initially, I'd feel much better because it was very, very hectic schedule. But then after that got over, I just felt like there's something missing. I did not have that sort of tension in my head, or, a lot of things on my head. And I realized that I liked having that, so many things on my head where I would, figure out things, or, so many, wherein there's a lot of, yeah, like you want to be, doing more, and you're like, okay, I want to do this new thing today, or I'll do this. That satisfaction wasn't there. And that's when I was like, I want to, build something of my own. And, so the way I was thinking about it was I'll either work at a very early stage startup, and, because there you'll still have a lot more flexibility, or, I'd start something of my own. And then that's when, again, me and my co-founders were having conversation, and they were already, inclined towards starting up something of their own. They'd already started working on something. So I was like, this actually sounds great, and we could all bring complementary skills as well, because I was always more focused on the business side of things. Even at Avishkar Hyperloop and other places where I'd worked at before, as an intern, or, as the teams that I'd led as well. And Akash and Prajwal, they're like, just really good. Like Akash is a great designer and, front end builder. Prajwal is a great tech person as well. And that's where we getting complementary skills as well. And all of us have the same goal. We want to build something of our own. So let's just start working together. That's how it started. I'd say I would have loved to do more things in the childhood and learn more things as well. But yeah, I think it shaped out well now.
How did your friends and family react when they found out you were starting this company?
That's a great question, and I'm super fortunate to have a very supportive family as well, because I've seen friends, some of my friends who wanted to start a startup as well, but just can't because of the financial situation of the family, and this not possible for them. So that way, I'm super fortunate. I'd say that my family did not really expect me to start earning right away, and then send some money home or something like that. My dad was always like, very, very supportive. In fact, he's like, just if you start up something, just let me know. I'd love to invest as well. So when I told them that I was starting something of my own, my parents were super happy as well, because they have their own business as well, and they know how starting something of your own feels, and how big it can get as well. And then they were like, you should definitely go for it. There's nothing to lose, and yeah, they were very, very supportive. And because I did not have any sort of other things to worry about, like actually start earning right away, or and so that was very helpful. My family was super supportive, and they were all very happy with my decision. And my friends, actually, they were all super excited as well. In fact, again, everyone was just that just do it. And then one thing that personally made me realize that I wanted to do this right away itself is, as a 22-year-old, there's nothing better you could be doing anyways. There's nothing that you need to worry about. So we just thought, this is the best time for us to start, and because there's nothing else to worry about, and that now is when we'll have most flexibility. So overall, the reaction was great from everyone I told to, and they're all very supportive. So that's super helpful.
So you just mentioned that, and we were talking off camera as well, that early in life, which is maybe right after college, that's the best time to start a startup.
Yeah.
Low responsibilities, so it's really the best time to get into the startup ecosystem. Maybe going off on a bit of a tangent here, I'd love to get your take on how do we encourage more of this to take place? How do you encourage more students or early career professionals to adopt the path of maybe starting a startup? Keeping in mind that there would be limitations around family background, financial expectations, things like that.
Yeah.
What can the colleges or the students or the families do to encourage more entrepreneurs?
Well, that's an amazing discussion that I love having, and is something that me and my co-founders discuss a lot about as well, because in IIT Madras as well, personally, we have been trying to get more of our users to start up and start building something of their own as well. And a couple of things which I feel would really work is what some of these things are already happening, which is these kind of cohorts or entrepreneur in residence, kind of programs, residency programs that a lot of these VC firms or accelerators are starting up, wherein they give you good amount of seed funding to start with as well, so that gives you enough financial stability to start with, at least for a few months, and that gives you more flexibility so that you can get into it, and it's also kind of safe, and then that gives you more freedom to think something of your own startup as well. So I think that's something that super really helps. All of these programs have been really helpful in pushing a lot of people towards starting up, because that one aspect of one major aspect is typically financial aspect when you're for not starting up. And if you can get that seed funding or whatever it is, or for a few months at least to start with, that's really helps folks to at least take that step in that direction. And apart from that, I feel like at least in colleges, one thing I personally feel that really works is while you're in your college, let's say first year or second year of college, if you see some of your seniors starting up and doing well, that's a great sign. So you want to see more people around you doing that. Like typically what happens in IITs or any other colleges is everyone's like looking for that 40-50 lakhs job in India here, and then we want to get into that top companies, and because everyone is preparing for that, there's like a lot of fear of missing out, for more that you also want to do that and you also want to prepare for that. But if you can see more people around you who are starting up, more of your seniors, then you'll definitely look up to them, and then want to start up as well. And that's something that we've seen as well in IIT Madras, wherein once we got into YC, while we were in a college itself, a lot of our juniors used to now reach out every time there's a YC application. They're like, we are filling out this YC application. Can you help us with some sort of, reviewing our application? And that's really helpful. So I feel, if you can see more people around you doing it, that's definitely very helpful. That's one thing, which is more exposure to the startup world itself. And the second one, I believe, is the financial aspect, which is again, something that, these kind of programs, or even colleges like in IIT Madras, there's a, pre-incubation cell called Nirman. They give you, 2 lakh seed funding at no equity, nothing, for you to just, explore and learn and figure out, what you could do. So some programs like this could be super helpful. And again, more flexibility in terms of academics as well. So a lot of colleges have this, specific 85% attendance requirements, but, BITS does not have something like this. BITS is like 0% attendance. And that's also probably a reason why more folks from, BITS start up while they're in the college itself, or at least, try something of their own. There's less, pressure from other ends, at least the academics or the college side as well. So that's super helpful as well. So I think these are the 3-4 major aspects that I would say would definitely help more people to start up.
I would say in terms of starting up, mindset is far more important than things like intelligence even. In terms of mindset or how to kind of build up the courage, what would you recommend students, let's say in the third or fourth year of their college, to do? Or would you recommend them to start experimenting with something? How to really
Absolutely. Well, that's again something that I like talking about a lot and been trying to figure out myself as well. So, when you're starting up, there's so many new things that you come across, and you always have imposter syndrome. Like, you always feel that, so many other people know better than you, because you're meeting such great folks, such great founders, and, who've done so well, and you feel like you don't know anything in front of them. But then I feel the best way to build that mindset, of course, you need to have that internal mindset as well, that you want to build something of your own. So that's something to start with. But I think just finding a great team, a great set of co-founders itself is one of the, things that I suggest everyone, right? So don't start building something or doing something or working on some project with an intention that you want to, start up. Just start working together with, good folks that you enjoy working with. Like, find those 1 or 2 people, or, in your friends group, that's ideal if you can find, and, just start working with them. Try and, that's the first step, I'd say. Don't even think very long term about startup. Just, start working on something together, start something, go to some hackathons together, or, start working on some projects. And now that AI is there's so many different use cases that you could be thinking of, and, we can, and so many of these tools also give you credits to work with. So like, $1,000 credits or $10,000 credits, or AWS gives $5,000 credits as well. Just start building something, and build a small prototype for something. And when you actually build something and get someone to use it, that's when you'll see the impact. And that's when you're like, I want to actually build something much bigger, which a lot more people will use, and that gives you a lot of motivation as well. So building something small to start with the right set of folks, I think, is really helpful, and will also help you build that mindset for something more long term. And that's what I believe, and that's what kind of happened with us as well.
So Clueso is smack in the middle of the AI boom that is happening right now. How would you advise founders who are also building in the AI space to navigate the AI hype? What is hype versus what is real?
Oh, that's a good question again. I don't think it's a hype anymore now. We're already seeing enough in more use cases of AI in pretty much every different fields, and we've seen how it's already impacting. And it's just a start. It's just gonna get better and better and better. The models are of course gonna improve a lot, and there are so many use cases that are yet to be targeted. Which are currently done through very old school ways, which could definitely. I mean, it's just like, again, as everyone mentions it as a cliche, like just like the software boom or the initial .com boom, there's gonna be like an AI boom as well, wherein like internet, mobile phones, and then now there's AI, which is everyone. There are so many use cases to be discovered, and so many different sort of applications where you could be using it. So I definitely don't think it's a hype. And in terms of how companies can think about it, I feel there are two ways to think about it. So one is, you could definitely be, if you're already a company, then there are a lot of ways you could already be improving your internal processes itself or internal efficiencies itself, be it through Copilot or any of these other tools as well, to do your work better. And of course, in terms of customer facing use cases, I would say, at least from my understanding, pretty much every company who's serving any kind of customer will have some kind of use case with AI, wherein they could improve or provide a better experience to their customers in terms of automating more of the things itself, or doing much more than what they're already doing right now as well. And to someone who's just getting started, I'd say, again, there's so many credits available out there. All of these, you don't need to build a model of your own. There's so many APIs. Just take some very small use case that people actually face, or to some a problem that people actually face, and just try and solve it, like a very small prototype that you build with AI. Just play around with these APIs as well, and that should give you a good enough idea. I mean, sure, that's going to be a wrapper on top of GPT, or whatever else, whatever the model you use. But I think that's good enough for you to explore and start understanding how it works as well, and what kind of use cases sort of work well with the models that are there. And I think that's a good starting point. And then of course, once you start building that, you will learn so many more insights from the folks who already use you, or just because of the fact that you build that, you'll learn so many more things, which will help you build something much bigger and something more concrete as well.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more about the process of identifying the problem. So let's say as a young entrepreneur, maybe a student, early career professional who's just experimenting around with ideas, how do you find a space or a problem that can be disrupted by AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something that I've learned from YC and heard a lot from the YC podcast as well, is one of the ways of finding out an AI idea that can disrupt the current market is look at the tools that are already doing great, without any AI in it. So be it like Salesforce, or the current old school tools that so many companies use, and now try and envision a similar kind of tool with AI. Let's say if you were to start off with AI itself, what would the ideal experience be? So try and imagine that and go for something like that. And that's how we are thinking about video creation as well. There's so many tools that help you create videos, but we are like we are in this AI first world. So let's say if you were to imagine the experience from scratch, what kind of user input is good enough for you to create the final output that they need. And so try and imagine the existing products with completely an AI experience and a completely new experience. I think that's a good sort of direction to think in. Another good direction to think in is there are a lot of processes or a lot of industries where a lot of things are still very, very manual. Be it like insurance claim industry, wherein you're going through documents manually, or be it in healthcare also, there's a lot of going through documentation manually, and a lot of industries where there's a lot of manual work that's going on right now, which can be automated. So try and find those industries where there's a lot of manual effort that goes in, a lot of cost that's spent there, and then try and see if there's some sort of automation that could be done. I mean, it's probably difficult to replace something completely the way where based on where the AI is right now. But of course, definitely, you can definitely make processes 10 times faster, and that's something that's another good direction thinking as well, which is so many. And another thing is, if you're an early stage professional or someone who's as students, it's really really difficult to find good ideas to work on because you don't really have experience or exposure to the to any company that you've worked at before or any kind of experience as well. And that's why students typically end up starting like target ideas, and that's what we ended up doing, which is we built a solution or tool to solve our own problem, which is we were like, digital reading is boring, we're not getting most out of it. How do we improve the reading experience? And that's what we started off with. By when we were building Desklam, we built a better note-taking experience. But then most of these problems are something that are good to have and not something that people would pay for. So that's that's what we realized, and then we had to pivot as well. So one more thing I think which is very important to think about is just whenever you're thinking about something, just before you start building, just try and talk to enough folks in that industry or in the space to just actually validate if your hypothesis is actually true or not. And then I think that's super helpful. And as YC says, sell before you build. So you definitely need to know, who you're going to serve, and what kind of customers you're going to serve, and is it a big enough problem that they would pay for, and then actually start building something. And that's one mistake we made with our first startup, Desk Lamp. And now that we've learned it a hard way, we're doing things slightly better than we were before. Yeah.
Was your
Oh, amazing. So YC, so there are a lot of founders who reach out to me and ask if YC is worth it, if 125K for 7% is worth it, because the valuation is not great and whatnot. But I'd say irrespective of what stage you are at, YC is definitely worth it. Like just just as an example, just filling the YC application gives you much better understanding of your market and product. Makes you think so many things which you probably would not have thought of, because when you're starting and working on a startup on a day-to-day operation, like you just get so busy with those daily things and building out things that you forget more of these overarching or first principle thinking as well, which is really really important. So just filling the application itself is super helpful. And apart from that, now that we have experienced YC, at least as someone who had zero experience of working at any kind of company before, because we were just in college when we got into YC, I'd say it was definitely a game changer for us. We were doing so many things the wrong way, like, for just focusing on the product building without focusing on the customers or the revenue side of things, or even the way we're taking user interviews and whatnot. So just getting into YC really helped us sort of, learn so many of these things and start doing things in a better way. That's one thing, of course. And apart from that, YC is a great brand to have, right? Like it just adds so much trust, and so many more customers will want to buy from you just because you're a YC company, because that adds a lot of trust as well. And apart from that, the YC network, the other companies that you meet in the batch that you are in, whichever batch you are in, I can guarantee, at least in my experience, that those were the smartest folks I ever met in my life. Like gathering of 200 to 500 people, I've never met so many smartest folks together. Like this everyone is just so smart, has done something so big. You obviously will have imposter syndrome, but there's something to learn from everyone, and the network is just amazing. And I would, if I were to start up again, I'd probably go through YC again. Now that I've already gone through it, if I already had whatever, if I had already known what I know now, I would still go through it again, and maybe at a slightly later stage as well. YC was definitely very helpful for us, and as in also Indian company, if you want to build trust in the US market, that's also something that can help you with a lot.
Tell us about your YC interview experience. How did you enter?
Oh, absolutely. So back then when we applied for YC, we were working on this other product called Dust Clamp, right? So when we applied for YC in the application, we had close to 10,000 signups. And by the interview, after 2 to 3 months, we had got, we had 15 to 18,000 signups overall. And then so after the application to the interview, that's where most of the filtering happens. And in the interview, it's a very simple process. It's just a 10 minutes interview, nothing more than it, just 10 minutes. And they sort of know if they want to fund you or not just in those 10 minutes. And the interview process is like they just again try to understand your business and how you think about your space and how who are you targeting, who's your customer, how do you think this business will grow as well. So very very basic questions about the business, something that you would see in the in their application as well, but just that they want to understand things better from you directly. And our experience was good. There were a lot of questions that were asked and which we answered as well. And in fact, in our interview, they also brought up, that again, this is a graveyard space. The product that you're building, the product is great, and you've got users, but not something that you can make money from, or not something that you can build a big business out of, because it's a graveyard space. This market does not pay for software, and they just told that to us on our faces in the interview, and we were like, we're doing things differently, and here's how we will win the market. And then they're like, okay, fine, but do you have any other ideas that you can work on? We just mentioned a couple of ideas. Doesn't matter what those ideas are. They're just wanting to see if you're even flexible to actually start working on something else. Because as a startup, we cannot be very much attached to some idea, at least initially, because if things are not working out, you'll have to pivot. And that's something that we learned the hard way as well, which we pivoted later than we probably should have. But in the interview, it is just a 10 minutes interview wherein they just try to understand our business. And after also one more thing about YC interviews is that in the interview you will not know if you're doing good or bad. So the reactions are going to be very very neutral, irrespective of how it goes. And based on how it went, at least we thought we wouldn't really make it. But then the next day morning, we got a call from them saying that you guys got in. We don't really love the market that you're building for. That's definitely not the market that you should go for. But we love your team, and then that's what we want to fund you guys based on. And you can of course try and validate or invalidate your current idea and figure out what else you want to do. So that was super helpful. And that's another thing about YC, which is they focus a lot more on the team than anything else, like your traction, idea, and whatnot. They want to find the best set of people they can, and then just give them the resources they need, so that these people can figure out and build something very very big. So they're trying to find these hustlers and someone who will definitely sort of not give up very easily. And in our case, I think what worked well was YC also likes young founders a lot, like especially recent graduates or folks in colleges as well, because again they know that this is the time when you don't have to worry about a lot of things. And one thing which I feel personally worked for us is in a college, while you're in college, you could be doing so many more things. Like you could be partying, which is what everyone else is doing. But if you're putting that aside, and if you're building something of your own, working for 12 hours a day, then that's already a great sign that you actually are very very motivated and to build something. And that's a good sign as well. So I definitely recommend anyone early on in their journey, if you're thinking about taking a leap, just apply for YC even without leaving your job. Just if you have some idea, just go and apply for YC. And just the application itself will give you a great sense of what you want to build. And it if it works out, it's just going to be the best decision of your life for sure.
Right. I remember recently there has been a little bit of a narrative, and you touched upon this as well, that is YC worth it for Indian founders? And I don't know how much of that is maybe propaganda by other competitors, but specifically, what should an Indian founder expect to get out of YC?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I'd say YC is equally worth it for Indian founders as the US founders as well. The only challenge that is there is if you're specifically serving for the Indian market, let's say, if you're building like a B2C product or some fintech product for India, then the legality or the structure or the company structure probably wouldn't make sense, because to get funded by YC, you need to have your headquarters in Singapore, Singapore, US or Canada. And then, if you're not headquartered in India because of Indian legalities and Indian government as well, there might be some issues in terms of that. But if you're building a SaaS company or a software company, and if you want to target US market, then it's definitely a no-brainer. I'd say definitely you should go for it. And even I just don't get it, because at least personally, I think it's easier for me to say this because I've gone through it and I know how much value I got out of it. And I would definitely still recommend anyone to go for it, except unless you've got an Indian structure, and just the legalities will just make it very difficult. But apart from that, I think any kind of company you're building, and especially if you want to target the US market at some point, then YC is the best accelerator to be in.
For someone, let's say, who's filling out the application right now for the next batch, how would you advise them to, what kind of mindset to have and how to approach filling out?
Yeah, absolutely. So what YC tries to see in the applications, from our understanding at least, is that, okay, how well do you know the customers that you want to serve? So that's something that they care about the most. Are you talking to enough customers? Do you really have insights about the space that you're building in? And is it not just very generic thing that anyone could come up with? What are the deep insights that you have? And of course, if you have some sort of traction, that helps. But just understanding how they just want to understand how you are thinking about the problem. What are the kinds of insights you have? How do you think you will serve the customers differently, or what is the problem that you're trying to solve for them? That's, I think, these are some of the most important things. And of course, the other most important thing is also about the team itself, like conveying that you are a great team, you're great founders to work with. And as a solo founder, it could be really, really difficult to get in. That's why I definitely recommend that you try and if you're a solo founder, definitely find a person, another founder, co-founder that you can work with. Try and work with them for a few months, and then definitely apply for YC, because having co-founders again really helps, because startups are really difficult, and there's so many ups and downs, and there more downs, 100x more downs than the ups you see on a regular basis. And you definitely need someone who you can share that with, and who can sort of cheer you up when you are sort of not feeling great, and the vice versa as well. So definitely, I think team matters the most, and also how well do you know the problem that you're solving and the customers that you're serving. These are the most important things. And in terms of just application, like generic tips, one is try to keep your answers very concise and short. Don't really use a lot of complex terminologies. Just think of it like they don't have any idea about the space you are building in. How would you explain this product to them? And how would you communicate that value that you'll bring to some market or customers as well? So keep it very concise, very simple language, something that anyone can understand. And just communicate that as a team you guys can do great things. Share about what you've done before. In our application, what helped was we could talk about the things that we had built before YC, before we did the application, like before we started the startup as well. Like we built out this team, we started off this new project here, and then so those also help you prove that you really have that sort of motivation to start something of your own. You can hustle a lot as well. So communicating that is also super, super important.
Tell us a little bit about the tech that powers Clueso.
Absolutely. So we are at a core, we do a lot of video processing. Everything is in-house for that. So we use libraries like FFmpeg and other sort of video editing or video creation libraries, like video processing libraries. And apart from that, on top of that, we have got a lot of AI features as well. So we've got speech to text. For that, we use APIs like DeepGram, Whisper, Assembly AI. We've got rewriting the script in a better way. For that, we use GPT APIs, GPT-4, or other GPT-4 GPT model APIs as well. And beyond that, we do a lot of text to speech as well to generate the voiceovers for the videos. For that, we use 11 Labs, Well Said Labs, Murph.ai, a lot of these speech generation tools as well. And we also do a lot of visions. We've started working with GPT Vision to analyze what's. So recently we launched a feature which is you upload a presentation on Clueso, and then Clueso will give you a great video out of it. And the use case is basically, you've got, sometimes you create sales demo videos, a lot of boring decks, and people don't want to go through decks. But then if there's like a nice voice explaining you what's happening in a crisp and concise way, that could be improve the engagement significantly. And that's something that we built out. And for that, what we're doing is we're taking the presentation as the input, and we use GPT Vision to understand what's happening on the slides, to actually generate the script for the presentation, and then generate the final video as well. So we using all of these different aspects. We've done a lot of internal prompt and chaining of prompts to get to the results that we need. And I think we put together all of these workflows really well together. Like right now, all of them exist as a separate thing that you could be doing. And if you were to create a video on your own, like the way we do it, it would still take you manually using multiple different things as well. But we've put together everything really, really well. Of course, in terms of the AI features itself, and then also the kind of video processing and all the other software side of things that we can do, we're doing internally. And anyone, great front end really helps, great UI really helps, and that's something that we've done really well as well.
To opening models wasn't.
Yes, to be very honest, in our case, we've not really experimented a lot with other models. I mean, so we do for the voiceover generation, we don't use OpenAI. We use the market leaders like 11 Labs, Well Said Labs, Murph.ai. And for again the transcription as well, we are using other models. But for any kind of script rewriting or better generation of the scripts or rewriting the language, we're still using OpenAI models because for us, it's in the other models could also be equally good, but that's not the core thing to what we are doing anyways. So, it doesn't really make sense for us to spend a lot of time and effort figuring out the ideal model for what we are doing at this point, because we're not trying to optimize our costs anyways right now. And fine tuning is something that we would be doing a little bit down the line, wherein, that's when we might want to find like a smaller model that could work well for our specific use case, and fine tune that fit what we need, the kind of results we need. But as of now, what we're doing is, I would say, at least where we're using OpenAI APIs, is anyways very generic. And even though it could be expensive, doesn't really matter to us because that's not a top priority for us at the moment. There's a lot of other priorities. So in our case, I'd say what GPT-4 is doing or whatever APIs we are using, those are working well enough the way we want them to work. And of course, when we feel that it's not able to meet the requirements or the cost is super, super high, that's when we probably explore other models. Yeah, sure. Let me just think. So in terms of AI, to be very honest, in terms of the foundational models and other aspects, I don't think I have got any unique insights as compared to like what's already out there. We still try to figure out ourselves as well in terms of all of these aspects. One thing which I believe we know well is in terms of customer success aspects. How do you offer great customer experience or customer success? Maybe that's one of the things that I'd like to talk about in terms of as a SaaS product. How do you offer, not even about Clueso, but in general about good customer experience to your customers? How do you the customer success or product marketing side of things? I think that's a good topic.
So given that Clueso is in the space of product education, customer success, and so on, I'd love to learn a little bit more about how do you as Clueso think about product education and customer success for the customers of Clueso?
Yeah, that's a great point. So we've been doing a couple of things, right? And because we are in this space, we are doing a lot of experimentation in terms of customer education, product education, just to see what's working for us, and based on that, we'll actually know what typically works well. So in terms of product education, of course, we've built out a very sort of detailed help center or knowledge base with all of the features of Clueso. We've documented everything really, really well. And for every feature, we've got videos, a video as well as an article, and that's what we communicate. We're communicating with Clueso as well, which is different users have different preferences of going through content. Some prefer going through videos, some prefer going through articles. So we should have both of these formats so that they can go through into the format they prefer. So our entire help center is built with Clueso. All the content is created with Clueso as well. So that's one way where we've been able to see how it's working and what kind of content is working well as well. We in fact are doing a lot of sort of work or experimentation on the length of the videos itself, or should we use more GIFs in the articles or fewer GIFs, and these kind of aspects as well. And that's giving us more insights on what do customers really like from our own experience itself, and then based on that we could communicate or let our customers know that this is what has been working for us. You should probably try this as well when you're using our product. So that's one thing that we've been doing. And apart from that, in terms of product education, we have started doing a lot of in-app things as well. So not in-app tours, because we personally feel those are very interrupting and people just end up skipping those. So like one really good thing that a lot of our customers have loved Clueso for as well is in terms of education is when you're generating the video or the audio for the video, it takes a few seconds. So while it's loading, it's just not a normal loading screen. We actually put up some GIFs of different tips that we offer customers. We are like to make your video more engaging, add zoom effects, and we have a small GIF of how to add a zoom effect. And we've got multiple tips like that. And because in an hour when they're creating the video, they generate 4 or 5 times. They generate the video 4 or 5 times. So they probably spend 3 to 4 minutes on that screen overall, the loading screen for each video. And well, when they're spending the time anyways, they can actually go through the tips, understand how it works as well. And we've heard really really good feedback from our customers on how well they've been able to understand the product because of that. And apart from that, at different locations, a couple of things that we've recently started doing as well is we had a lot of buttons initially wherein which did not say anything, so customers didn't really know what they would do. But now when you hover over some button, it gives a small description of what the button does as well, so that everyone knows exactly what that button would do before they even click on it. So small things like that. We've also incorporated, GIFs and videos at different places in the product, wherein right next to the feature, we've got like, small hint button that they can hover over to, learn more about that feature as well, so that they don't even need to get outside the app product whenever they're doing something. So these are a lot of things that we are experimenting with in terms of product education itself, and been learning a lot because of this and because of the experiments that we are doing. Apart from that, in terms of customer success, we are a big user of Slack, and we've seen that it works really, really well. So every customer we onboard, we typically create Slack channel with a customer. Of course, if they don't use Slack, if they use Teams, we create a Teams channel. If they use WhatsApp, we create a WhatsApp. If they use Discord, we create Discord. So we literally internally use all of these channels so that we can stay in touch with our customers, like one step ahead than like normal email or call as well, because email is too much effort for someone to come and type in, if they're facing some issue, if they have some feedback to give. But if it's just like an open Slack channel, no one would mind doing that. They'll just come there and then drop a message like, here's what I observed, or here's an issue that I'm facing. And because of that, we've been able to offer really, really good customer experience and support and success to our customers, because now they can reach out whenever they have any issues or whenever they have any feedback as well. Because of that, we're learning a lot more about how we can improve our product itself, how we can improve our customer experience, and also we've been able to support them better, because it's on email, again, the communication is difficult. It takes more time as well. But if it's on Slack, you're just directly communicating with them right away. Like they send a message and you're sending the message back. So that's what we've been doing for customer success. In fact, we've built now that we've the number of channels have crossed over 200 on all these platforms combined. We've built internal tools on managing these as well. So we've built like a Clueso announcements sort of app, wherein if we have a new feature update, we could write a message there and that would send on all the sort of Slack channels that we have, or all the WhatsApp groups that we have, internal Microsoft Teams groups that we have as well. So that's been super helpful. And now our customers are like, here's how we want to communicate with our customers as well. So when are you launching this feature on Clueso itself? And now we're going to make that internal tool a customer-facing feature on the product as well. So we do a lot of experimentation with a lot of these different things. We personally try out a lot of things as well. And because our customers, in fact, one more thing is, if you go through my LinkedIn, every once in a while we launch a new feature, and then we have a video for that feature, and then customers have been loving those videos, and that's also the reason why they come and book demos. They're like, we want to be able to create videos like this as well. We also want to be able to share the updates for our product like this, and that's why they come and book demos with us. So we personally are trying everything we can, and for whatever value that we say we offer, we have been trying Clueso for all of those use cases, because firstly, if you yourself are a user, you will know, you get the kind of insights that you'll not get otherwise. So you're learning, you're like literally using it actively, and you'll know where things are broken so that you can improve those. And apart from that, just because you're using it yourself, and customers can see that impact that you're having directly, because they themselves are the sort of receivers of this content on this side. They can see that they're really liking it. They would want to offer the same thing to their customers as well. So that's how we look at product marketing, education, and customer success.
Right. How do you think about building a moat around your product or your company? And how do you think about creating enough differentiation in the market?
That's a really good question. And then that's something that we get asked a lot as well by the prospects on sales demo calls, or even investors as well. It's the way we think about it, right? So there's so many video creation tools, but there are a lot of these tools that are very, very generic. Like, you could create videos with them, but you still need to spend a lot of time with them and, understand how it works. And, because they could help you with a lot of different things. But at Clueso, what we have done is, because we have focused specifically on screen recorded videos, let's say, any kind of product, software product videos, we know the exact kind of problems that people face while creating these videos, like be it adding zoom effects or adding a nice voiceover to it or adding nice branding like intro outro. And we've made all of these one-click operations or automated most of these because we've taken a specific niche that we want to target. We've been able to work for that niche much better than anyone else as well. So that's, I'd say, that's one mode, which is the way we are thinking about the problem itself, or how niche we are going with the product that we are building to start with. The second aspect is, I would say, right now, what folks do with Clueso is something that could be done otherwise as well. But right now they use, 3, 4 multiple different tools. But the way we've put them all together, like, we've stitched them all together or, built workflows around them is something that I believe is, something that we're doing much better than anyone else as well. We've brought, like, basically, again, coming back to the same problem, which is we have this customer and they want to create any kind of screen recorded videos or demos or how-to videos or whatever. That's the goal. And now for screen recorded videos, we've put together the best workflow that's possible, which is again not other tools are doing because they're focusing on the other kind of videos as well. So I'd say that's a mode.
How did you guys go about getting your first 10 customers?
Yeah, so getting your first 10 customers, as you already know, as a founder, is the hardest thing, right? And so I think that's also when you learn the most as well about which market you want to target, who you want to target as well, and that's also where when you're trying to figure out who your ICP will be, and of course you'll not have a better idea. So that's super crucial. And for us, multiple different things worked out. I wouldn't say one thing worked out. So in fact, I think we got like 1 to 2 customers from each of these channels. So one was firstly definitely from your network itself, right? So let's say if you've worked with some company before, and if you're building a product that could be relevant to them, why don't you try and go sell to them? Or if you've got some investors, angel investors or the others, if you know that they know some other company really well, so why don't you get warm intros? So any kind of warm intros or direct network connections really help. So that's one of the ways to get some of your first 10 customers. The second way is actually just be part of communities. Try and figure out what are the kind of communities that would need your product. In our case, there's a community called customer education community or customer success community or product marketing community, wherein their focus is on improving their processes internally. And then these are folks talking about this always. And when you're in part of the community, you just learn so much about the customer problems itself, the kind of problems that they face. And when you're in the community, try and be genuinely helpful. Like, if there's people are reaching out because you're building a product in this space, you will have a lot more things to talk about as well. So talk about those. Never try and sell. If you're genuinely helpful, people would want to, because they know that, okay, you're a thought leader in this industry, you know things well. They would want to actually come and talk to you and see, if your product can help solve that problem as well. So that's another thing that has worked well for us as well, but still working very well now, in fact. But that's something that I'd say you can start doing early on itself. Another thing that you should definitely be doing as well is through your college alumni network or any kind of your investor network as well. Like try and utilize that really well. Which is let's say if you're backed by some investor, then their portfolio companies will sort of have better trust because they themselves are funded by the same investor, so they would have more trust in you than any other company, or they would want to help you out as well. So that's one thing. And see, same thing with college alumni. So like if you're a BETS alum or an IT alum, most of your alumni are so many of them are founders and working at like product leaders and whatnot in all of these companies. So we should definitely try and utilize this network because they will definitely be willing to help you out. So I'd say that's something that would work well as well. But that typically, if you're that channel works if you have got some investors or some people from your alumni, like typically tier 1 colleges. So that's one advantage that they have over others for sure. And I'd say one more thing that sort of worked really well for us is just being out there and doing very personal reach out. So a lot of folks start with cold outbound, which is not a great way because, again, there's no connection. Why would they trust you as, a company who has no logos to even show right now? No one's going to trust you. So you want to do that very personal outreach. So in my case, what I was doing personally was, I was on LinkedIn trying to look for companies who were hiring for a customer success, let's say, role. And then one of their job roles or responsibilities was to create, videos and documentation for their customers. And because they were actively hiring for that role with that particular responsibility, they're really looking for someone who can do that, or they're really looking to solve that problem. And that's when, I would find these companies manually and then, reach out to these companies with very personal reach out. I'd go to their website, look at their knowledge base, see, how their experience is. If possible, we would also sign up on their product and try and experience it ourselves, and, uh, actually point out, the flows where the onboarding was broken, or, where there were some flows that were not documented, because of which I could not, do what I wanted to do. And then when we actually responded to them with that similar, like, very detailed feedback about, here's what I feel we can improve. And because we are building this product, we feel we can help you. We definitely got conversations in those cases. So that's super, super helpful as well, which is do very targeted, very, very personal outreach, wherein you actually understand what they are and actually reach out to them with, how you could help solve their problem. That's also something that really helped. And in our case, we also, YC network helped a bit. So two of our first customers were actually YC backed companies, and one of them was a company from our batch itself. So we knew them well personally, and then they were ready to take a bet even when we didn't have a product. So these are some different ways we followed.
Talk about doing things that don't scale.
Absolutely. That's another thing that YC taught us again, which is just don't worry about finding something that would help you get 1,000 customers. When you're focusing on 10 customers, just find those 10 folks who would absolutely love your product, than finding those 1,000 folks who will just merely like your product. Right. So that's, you want to build a community, or like customer base that would actually sort of talk about you everywhere they go. They would feel that if your product is not existent anymore, then they would actually feel really, really bad and frustrated as well. So those are the kind of customers you want to find, and just do anything you can to get your first 10 customers. Like, go to work at some company's office, and then try and make them as a design partner as well. But go work out of their office, understand how you can solve their problem. Like, anything you can. Don't worry about how things would scale. Just focus on getting those first 10 customers and how you can make them happy. And that will teach you a lot more than having 100 customers who you don't know a lot about.
Right. I see Clueso making a lot of good buzz on LinkedIn. For let's say a founder that's trying to grow on LinkedIn, or trying to figure out how to optimize their LinkedIn outreach, or even posting content, what would you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that's been working well for us, and not just me and my co-founders. All three of us post on LinkedIn, and the number of engagement and reaction we get is super high. We, in fact, so there's a clear ROI as well, which is we get a lot of demos booked just because of our LinkedIn posts. And the best way to get started, super, super difficult to get started. I know for a fact that I personally was also always hesitant to write a post, but then, initially don't even worry about putting out the best content out there. Just start writing something, right? And then if you post a couple of times, you will know that, okay, then the resistance would be lesser, and then the content will of course keep getting better and better, and you'd correct more with more folks as well. So I'd say one tip is to just get started. Like, don't worry about putting out the best content out there. Just get started, post about anything you want. Couple of things that we personally post about, which works really well, is one is about a personal story itself. Like, here's why we started Clueso, or, here's what we learned from our previous journey at Desklamp, and why we pivoted to Clueso, for example, or here's how we got our first 10 customers. So anything that that you feel other people could relate with, just try and post them, and people want to hear these stories. People want to learn from others. People also want to share what has worked for them as well in comments and whatnot. So that's how we started. We initially were talking a little bit about our personal stories, and of course, you also want to talk about your product. So you talk about your product, new features you're releasing. You also want to talk about your thought leadership content for your product. So let's say in my case, because we are currently building a video creation and an article creation tool, I talk about things like how do you when you have a new feature, how do you launch that feature? What's the best way to launch a feature? So here's how you create a video. Here's how they share the video, and then actually share the results that we personally get. I'm like, with this video that I shared, I got 10 demos booked, and because of how good the video is and how well the value it communicated. So talk about the things that your customer base would want to know, not just about the product, but actually add value to there, and talk about the topics that they want to learn more about, and personal stories, and also about the product. So I think these are the 3-4 topics that you can talk about. It's been working really, really well for us. In fact, an average engagement that I get on each of my posts is like, to 20,000 impressions, which is, really good. And one more thing that it helps you with is, any event you go to, or where you meet people, people will actually have that recall value. They're like, if you appear on someone's feed a couple of times, they will remember you. And then even though, let's say, they don't really have a problem right away, at some point they will, if they're in the relevant customer base, they might face some problem like this. And then they would actually come and book a demo with you, or they would recommend someone, who's looking for something similar that, I actually saw this thing on LinkedIn. And for that, you need to appear in front of them again and again, and not just, with your random posts. Try and actually add value, try and actually be very authentic, talk about, what's working for us. And I think the best posts that, we have done, are the ones that have worked, are the ones where we're sharing our stories and, what has been working for us. So I wrote a post about like how we got our first 10 customers, or how do we handle customer support at Clueso, or how do you launch your product updates, or things like that. Or, talk about your personal story of why I started up just after college. These are the kinds of things that people want to learn more about, and then it'll also help them build that connection with you, even though they don't know you directly, because now they actually know about a little bit more about your personal life, or how you went about starting things and whatnot. That helps them build that connection, and they would, want to support you as well. So just be out there, participate in conversations, and, like comment section, like, talk to folks. And LinkedIn has been great channel. Twitter or X is, something that I'm still trying to learn more about and figure out. But as of now, for us, LinkedIn has been really, really helpful.
So to grow on LinkedIn, you need
Authenticity, consistency, and yeah, it's actually try and, put out a good content in terms of like, the value that you can add to your customer base or anyone who's reading. Just don't. I think one more thing that happens when you're trying to be more consistent is in the content quality could drop a lot. It's okay if that's in the start, but if you keep doing that, then, people are not going to continue following you, or no one's going to like your post. So you want to be, the content quality also matters a lot. Right now, my frequency is just one post a week, but it's still, good enough, I feel, because, and the reactions are, algorithm, of course, would want me to do more posts, but I try to ensure the quality that I put out is also good quality. So that's also something that matters a lot. So never compromise on quality for consistency is what I would say.
Got it. So authenticity, consistency, and quality. What's next for Clueso? Both for the audience and for me as a happy customer of Clueso, what can we look forward to?
Absolutely. So there's a lot more things that we're working on, a lot of things. So there are 3 focus areas overall. One is the quality of the content itself. Right now, the quality is something that, most of our customers are happy with, but, how do we make the quality even better? So let's say the videos output, how could the output be better? Or the documentation, how could that be better? So that's one thing that we are focusing on. So anything and everything that makes us improve the quality, we are focusing on those aspects. Another thing is the time to get to the output, the time to value aspect. Like, how fast can you get the video you need from the very raw recording or the very raw input that you have? So how do we make that process even faster, improve the latencies of, different models you're using and whatnot? That's another aspect. Third thing is actually expanding the number of use cases itself. So right now, as I mentioned, we're more for screen recorded demos, and it works great for, creating a feature specific product video, or, some sort of, let's say, how-to video for your product. But what if you want to create like a marketing video wherein, you talk about problems, you want to bring in some animations and things like that? How do you do that? For that, you're still going to agency and you're spending like $5,000 per video. But, is that something that we could solve for? And that's something that we're trying to see as well, which is expanding the number of use cases itself. We've gone from just, customer education training videos to product marketing videos, to, internal L&D videos as well with our new presentation feature launch. So that's another thing that we're working on. And another fourth thing, which is not relevant for most customers, but still relevant for very few customers and the new prospects that you work with, is localization. As we recently, a couple of months we launched language translation, which is, once you've got a video in English or any other language, how do you translate it to, let's say, 20 plus other languages? Let's say if you're serving European market, you want to serve, customers and in different languages as well, so that you offer the best experience. And that's something that we're working on as well. We've already got a few languages, but improving those, translations and, making that even better or adding more languages is also a focus area for us. So these are some aspects that we are focusing on.
Look, thanks so much for doing this. It was really insightful to kind of get a behind the scenes look of what
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure talking to you, and always love talking about our journey, and always keep love watching others' journey as well. So been loving your podcast, and would love to see what others have got to say as well.